back, everybody, to another episode of Agents of MACE. Today, we're going to talk about episode 2 of Moon Knight. I think it's called Summoning the Suit, I believe is the title of the episode.
Yep.
So it's kind of a misnomer of a title because it makes you think a lot's going to happen, and I feel like a lot didn't happen. So that's my initial reaction. How about you guys?
Well, there is a suit.
It's summoned.
And it was summoned after a headache. And I guess I'm curious, are we going to see this suit again?
I would assume.
That's the reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Elisa?
I enjoyed this episode. I did not think that it was quite as much fun, quite as engaging as the first one, but it was interesting in how it introduced us a little bit more to Mark. We got to meet Layla, who seems awesome, and I already loved Steven last week, but this week really solidified my love of Steven more than Mark. Mark will get his chance next week, I'm sure, but so far I'm very Team Steve in this whole in all this business.
Well,
It's like, should we get that trend start? Are you Team Steve or Team Mark?
or Team Khonshu. You really got to break it down.
Oh gosh, Khonshu is so creepy. We haven't talked about how creepy Khonshu is yet.
What's
I
funny?
probably
Go ahead.
spend more time like analyzing Khonshu and just kind of like the CGI around this, because it's like he's missing a neck, but then there's like these little gray hairs just kind of floating in the wind. But is like there a head? Is he really invisible? Is there more to what we're seeing that we're not seeing? It's just like, what's going on?
I'm trying to remember. I saw last week. He is designed based off the design of Khonshu from whatever the Moon Knight series is from like 2015, I think 2016. That's the Khonshu that we're getting, because I believe before that he was a statue, before that he was nothing, and after that he was a statue, but he was like a statue that took on. Mark was in Vietnam, maybe, and fought with this guy, and this other guy went kind of crazy, and Mark killed him, and then Khonshu shows up as that guy to kind of like haunt Mark, sort of. But the Khonshu that we're getting is like the weird bird head Khonshu. So, I think they were really digging in deep with this horror aspect. I will say I'm probably also Team Steven.
Yay.
Only because I want to see, like, now that we'll get there, but now that he's been able to summon his suit, I want to know if his suit that he summoned, because I looked up, like, what the suit was, is going to be, like, what it's modeled after, or if it's going to be just, like, this is how we differentiate between when Steven is Moon Knight and when Mark is Moon Knight. So I definitely think we'll see it again. I just don't know if there will be a purpose to it other than just showing us as the audience that it's somebody different. But to kind of get into this episode, it picks up sort of where the last one left off. I feel like there's the only thing that we kind of glean from the beginning of this episode is that no one else can see what Mark can see, or what Steven can see, Khonshu can see, whatever this human with 3 people in it can see. No one else can see it. So, but that's not to say that it's not there, because later we realize that it is happening. It's just not happening for people to see. So it's kind of got like this weird mystical. It reminds me of the Percy Jackson books, when they always talk about like the mist, covers things up so like normal people can't see it.
Interesting.
That's kind of what it makes me think of. So
Like for me, it's default like Paranormal Activity vibes.
mm,
But I forgot all about this. There's like a limited series on Netflix, where it's basically these creatures are coming to take people, but you can't see them unless you're like chosen. If you're like the chosen one, you'll see them.
oh,
But there's like these detectives trying to figure out like what's going on. Like people know they're there because these are like huge monsters and they're like destroying everything.
right. Interesting. I feel
Yeah.
it sounds really familiar.
I can't remember the name of it. I started watching it and there's too much content, so I stopped at like episode 30. I'll have to find the name of it, but yeah, basically same vibes.
Well, I think the first like big thing that happens in this episode, for me at least, was after Steven's kind of going through like, am I crazy? Am I not crazy? He goes and talks to his human statue friend, and when he hugs the human statue breaks.
Yep.
And he like looks at him, and I was like,
Yep.
oh, is
Yeah,
this
it's
supposed
curious
to
to see
mean
if we'll
something?
actually see him as Crawley, if like he'll break that statue character and
Right. Or
completely change.
is this like a weird nod for us to kind of be like, oh, maybe Khonshu's going to pay attention to Steven now and try to talk to Steven more and less be like, get Steven out of here, give me Mark. Maybe this is some sort of weird, subtle, like, oh, Steven's coming out of his shell and people are noticing. I don't know.
I thought it was that last one. I was like, I think this is showing us that Steven has finally forged a meaningful human connection.
Yeah.
It was with a statue who can't really interact with him.
Yep.
But he's melted that old statue's heart.
Yeah.
We see it.
He decides that he's going to figure out what's in his storage locker, which is exciting. We get to see that pretty early on. I thought that was going to be like a later in the season kind of thing, but I guess there are only 6 episodes, so kind of got to get the ball rolling. He gets there, and before we find out what's in there, for all of you quick with your phones, we got another QR code for a free comic book that's on the outside of his storage locker. So that will give you access to the Werewolf by Night episode, issue 33. So last week in the episode, there was the QR code, and it gave us Werewolf by Night episode 32. So that's kind of cool. Get another free comic. I really hope that moving forward...
Comic per episode.
it's comic per episode, but also that maybe they like branch away from the Werewolf by Night.
Oh, yeah.
I hope it's not just
I need to.
that series.
Did either of you get the comics? Scan the QR code?
I did.
I haven't yet.
I have not yet.
I got them both, and I was holding off because I was like, maybe I'll just like wait and then I'll read them all. Only because when I looked up, like, you know, is there anything to glean from the comics? It was more just like, no, this is Werewolf by Night. Issue 32 is the first appearance of Moon Knight. So I think that it doesn't really necessarily lean into this show at all. It's more just like,
Yeah.
here's Moon Knight. So
Something fun.
yeah. So that was exciting. But then we get inside and we get to kind of see Mark's like creepy setup, which like I'm pretty sure like you're not allowed to have a bed set up in a storage locker. So interesting that he's allowed to do that.
Do they check on stuff like that? Or they just do like a bed check on all the storage units?
I mean, maybe not, but I feel like they would, right? Or at least like while you're
You would
there.
hope
Yeah.
that they would notice if some dude was just coming in every day and disappearing for like 8 hours.
Right.
Well,
and then
I mean,
coming out.
he probably consulted with Joe Goldberg to figure out the proper setup.
Oh man. Well, we get to rifle through his bags with Steven. Steven finds a gun. I think this was my favorite reaction of the episode. Was his "oh no," and he like pulls the gun up, but
Oh,
like
yeah.
pinching the gun to pull it up. I thought it was pretty funny. Then we get my main issue with this episode. So, we haven't done it yet, but we are going to record an episode on Morbius. And one of the things that I have written that I disliked from that was the light situation. I don't understand why you would have this multi-billion-dollar building with lights that only turn on when you're right underneath them. That seems ridiculous. So here we are in a storage unit, exact same setup, and relatively the exact same scene plays out here that plays out in Morbius. And I was like, this is too much. I hate this. I don't like it. It feels unoriginal now that I literally just saw it. So, I don't know. I get that it was supposed to be like, oh, scary, but it's more just like annoying. Like, fix your lights. Why don't the lights just turn on in the hallway when you're walking down the hallway? Why is it got to be one at a time?
Because of the demons.
Right.
But also, what was that freeze frame?
Oh my gosh.
I rewound it like 5 times because I kept thinking like, surely my internet just like is skipping or buffering or something. Like, no.
Yeah.
There's a full
Don't do that again,
frame.
Disney. Do not do that again. I guess that's the disappointing thing with this show so far is like these little moments where it's like, why would they creatively decide to do that? Like,
Yeah, like was it? I wrote down. I was like, was it maybe an issue in post? Like it was something that they accidentally. But there's no way, right? Like it has to. Quality control has to go through like 30 people before it gets posted on Disney Plus. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. That was a little tacky.
Yeah, it was very tacky. But
Tried something, no, it didn't work.
I'm all for the horror side of it. Like, I want more of that kind of like, keep you on the edge of your seat and see what's gonna happen. But if it's gonna be repetitive, it's gonna be like the same thing for 6 episodes. No, that's not gonna be fun.
I will agree that like I'm fine with it trying to be a little spookier, but to literally have just seen it in Morbius, it makes me feel like this is somebody's new editing technique or shooting technique that they're trying out, and they're like, oh, I just did this really cool thing on this other scary movie, so like let me do it here too. It'll be my like calling card. And it was like, ugh, it's just, I don't know.
Well, speaking of calling cards, if you look in this basically happens after it when he's with the police officers that show up. There was it's like a file or something, folder, or it was a digital file, but there's an agent name on it, and the guy apparently is not a comic character at all, but he's actually part of the production team, and he's worked on everything on Disney Plus.
That's pretty cool. I hope they give him
That's a cool
role.
calling card.
Yeah.
Like,
let him walk on one day.
yeah.
Well, Steven gets chased outside, or I guess chased whatever away by Khonshu. I don't really understand like that whole side of it, like why Khonshu is trying to like scare Steven. Doesn't like I don't feel like I feel like that doesn't do anything for him.
I guess this is where things get really interesting. And so like if the person like Mark himself actually has like this disorder where he's got the multiple personalities, can Khonshu control all of them, or is like the avatar only one? Is it like the main thing, and that's what's, I guess, preventing Khonshu from getting full control?
Yeah, I don't know, because like again, having not like read a bunch or know a whole lot about Moon Knight, I feel like this I know even less about, because the Moon Knight issues that I read, it was just Mark and Khonshu, so like this edition of Steven is kind of like, well, I don't know how this works. I guess we get like a little glimpse of it working in this episode where Steven is kind of able to willingly give over control. I don't know what, like, how that works with Khonshu. Like, I don't know if he could willingly give over control to Khonshu, or if he can only give over control to Mark. And Khonshu's just sort of like there as like an extra voice or whatever. I don't know.
I wonder if Khonshu's trying to scare him, because if he passes out, then Mark takes control.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
Quite possibly. Kind of goes back to like, you need to lay down and take a nice long nap.
But I guess like I don't know, some stuff happens. They kind of get us from A to B, but he speaks with Layla and they go to his apartment, and there's
Very like James Bond-esque type moment. Like,
Yeah.
this feels like it's another moment where like, I've seen this so many times. Like, you run away, you fall down, and all of a sudden there's the person you need to see. And
yeah, perfect timing, coincidence.
perfect time.
But I feel like the like meat of this episode is once they like interact with Arthur again, and we get to see him use his power for like, I mean, not the like sucking out people's life force power, but apparently he has the ability to like summon these like jackal monsters. So like that was kind of exciting, because I was like, oh, this is cool, because like I looked up Arthur Harrow and he only shows up one time in the comics. So I was like, oh man, they like really dug deep to pull this villain. I wonder what he does. And now it's like, oh, he's like kind of crazy. Like he can just suck your life force out and also summon a bunch of demons from we don't know where yet. I guess we'll get there.
Which multiverse?
Yeah.
It's just like this soft-spoken vegan who's running a commune.
Yeah. And
He's not too
walking around
villainy,
with
and he's just
glass.
like, you want some lentil soup?
Right? Like, doesn't he like compliment his little posse? He's like, aren't they great?
Yeah, like a couple times. He's like, oh, it's so-and-so's grandmother's recipe. And, oh, look, everyone here's so happy. And then...
At first, Steven feels like he's like vibing with the place. He's like, this isn't so bad. Their goddess doesn't sound so bad. I understand what's going on. And then he's like, oh, wait, they kill children.
Yeah, hold on a second. Wait a minute. I also want to know, like, the video that they're watching with their headphones on. I wonder if that's some sort of, like, brainwash video. Because I was just like, what are they watching? It's just like a dolphin jumping in the water over and over again?
Is that how Mark got turned into Mark and Steven? Is that he watched one of their secret videos? And it broke his brain in half?
Hey, it's a scary place. Then Mark is explaining to Steven, while Steven is running away, that he can summon the suit, and there's this whole, like, can he do it, can he not do it? Surprise, he does it. This is like this is what we've all been waiting for, right? Is like Steven now has control of summoning the suit. But, surprise, it's not Moon Knight. It is a suit called Mr. Knight in the comics. Mr. Knight, at least in the comics, is a lot like Smart Hulk, where it's still Moon Knight, but it's like a smart, sophisticated version of Moon Knight, and less a like punchy, stabby version of Moon Knight. So,
It's like, let's go get dinner and talk about
yeah,
this.
exactly, yeah. So I really want to know if like that's what we're gonna get. If we're gonna get like smart Mr. Knight, Steven Knight, or if we're just that's gonna be like that's Steven and Scary Moon Knight is.
Oh, so it's like, could we potentially see a a Mr. Knight, Moon Knight like discussion? Like if Steven goes into Mr. Knight, looks in the mirror, and there's Moon Knight, like, what are you doing, man? Like, come on, we're supposed to be the heroes here.
I mean,
All I could think about in this scene was that one scene in Talladega Nights. Where I talk about wearing the tuxedo t-shirt. It's like, because it says that I want to be formal, but I'm here to party. That was the vibe I got from that suit.
Pretty much, yep.
Yeah. And I want to know, like, what the if there's any significance to the way that the suit was very like clean, but his mask had like a tear that looked like it had been like sewn up. I don't know if that was just like fun to make it look different, or if there's like,
Does it not look like that in the comic?
I don't know. I think the one I saw in the comic is just like a clean, almost like Deadpool.
Yeah. Yeah, it does have like almost a Deadpool. Deadpool's gonna show up. Calling it out.
Yeah. In the comics, it's like it's very like just white, clean. Well, you can't see because my phone's terrible.
Oh,
but
it disappeared.
it's just like white, clean, with a moon on the top. So I want to know if that was just like their way of making it more like realistic.
Yeah.
Air quotes realistic, or if that was, if there's like, I mean, this could also just be another one of those like, oh, there's two people in his head, so it's split down the middle to remind us all that there's two people in his head. Like, we get it. You did 1,600 mirror shots in the last episode. We know that there's multiple people here. I don't know, but this is kind of the moment where I feel like Steven picks up a little steam with himself, like a little bit more like, I'm in control, but then realizing that he's also like doesn't know how to fight, so he gives control over to Mark to save them again. And I feel like we get a couple big things with this. First of all, towards like the end of this battle, when Mark Knight kills the jackal, he's looking in a mirror and like having a conversation with Steven, sort of, except Steven is like explaining what it feels like to not be in control of the body, and you kind of feel bad for Mark, because you're like, oh, so like has Mark had to deal with that this whole time? But at the same time, like we still don't really know what Steven is, like if Steven is even real or if it's just like some extra personality that Mark's brain created. I feel more and more confused. Like, the story makes sense. I understand the plot and where we're going. Mm-hmm. It's the like main character that I don't get. Like, I feel like they haven't done enough to like build this character so we understand what he's going through. It's more just like we're kind of figuring out what he's going through with him, but at the same time not, because I feel like he is starting to understand things that we still don't understand watching it. So
this the fight at the end between Steven and Mark is, first of all, a wonderful showcase of Oscar Isaac. It's so good.
Yep.
But, and yet another thing that just reminded me of another movie. Have y'all ever seen A Secret Window with Johnny Depp in it?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so when he's having the big meltdown at the end, he's also fighting with himself in a mirror.
Yes.
Yep.
This was quite reminiscent of that.
Forgot all about that. Yeah, you're right. That's now I want to go back and watch that.
That was my favorite horror movie when I was younger. Or not even really horror, it's just like suspense, but I loved that movie.
I think it's the oldest movie ticket that I still have. Because I went and saw it with my mom, and I was better about keeping up with stuff back then, so I still have it.
Well, we kind of see... But here's another thing. So, Mark is tired of this argument that he's having with Steven, so he, like, stomps the mirror to pieces, and that seems to make Steven go away. I wonder if that's going to be explained. Like, is maybe Mark's mind some sort of like mirror universe, and so that's the only way that Steven can kind of, because he kind of talks about like, oh, you use all the energy that you've stored up to like come through as a reflection. So it's almost like weird ghost rules. Like you got to build up energy to be able to materialize. But for how long, we don't really know how that works. So I don't know. We're getting into spooky territory for sure.
Have they made any references, like, at all to the larger Marvel universe? Because we've gotten that in literally every single other show, and I can't think of any time when they've referenced any of the Avengers or any of the events of the movies so far in Moon Knight.
So.
The only thing we've gotten is in this episode when he falls and there's like the bus. It has the GRC logo on it, so it's referencing Falcon Winter Soldier. There was a book in his apartment that I believe was referencing Captain America.
Okay, but we still don't really know. I guess if it was GRC, then it would have to be timeline about the same.
Timeline? Well, no, they revealed the timeline.
Oh, they did?
They did that in an interview like last week.
Oh, I think I did. I saw an article.
Yeah,
title. I didn't
isn't
read
this
it,
after? Was this after Hawkeye? Like right after or something? I thought it was Hawkeye was referenced. Fact check.
Let's find out. Yeah, fact check live.
We need a fact check musical interlude.
We do.
They reference the GRC poster. GRC was created in 2023. Moon Knight can take place in the MCU. 2023 is just what it keeps saying. Shortly before... Okay, hold on. Spider-Man No Way Home ends in December of 2024, shortly before the events of Hawkeye, that wraps its story on December 25th. Moon Knight, clearly not taking place at Christmas time, happens after Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So 2025.
Yeah.
Interesting. That puts Oscar Isaac led show in the year 2025. Spider-Man No Way Home is not available on Disney Plus. Which is really fascinating. Because yeah, like there's like little bitty nods to like Avengers stuff, and there's like the book for Captain America, but like yeah, the closest thing we've really gotten is just the GRC reference. Mm-hmm. So we kind of get a general idea of like what could be going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, really quick, speaking of that bus, because that was one of the Easter eggs in this episode. The bus also has a number on it, WBN0032, Werewolf by Night, number 32, first appearance of Moon Knight. So I thought that was interesting that was referenced as an Easter egg in this episode, but that comic was the free comic last week.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. I don't know about that, but...
Come on now.
Well... Now we kind of have all the characters and like what they are trying to do. I'm interested in seeing if there's going to be like a struggle between Mark and Steven going forward as to who's in charge, or if like they're going to work together, or if like Steven's going to realize he needs to help Mark, and maybe that's what we'll get the difference between Mr. Knight and Moon Knight.
Yeah, it seems to be the big mystery right now, because I mean we're kind of basically jumping to the very end, but you know he's now in Egypt, so clearly like he's Mark. Is it Mark? This thing is it Mark? Is it Khonshu? Like one of those two is on a mission to do something. It has to do with like the gold piece that he has, but I'm wondering if Steven was created because he disagrees with this plan, so he doesn't want it to happen.
Well, I think that
If there's a part of Mark that knows, like, no, we don't need to do this. This is really bad.
Right.
Like, we got to put a stop to it.
Well, I
And
think
that's what
now
kind of forms Steven.
now they're like trying to stop it, right? Because the whole thing was that the scarab would lead you to Amut's whatever.
I thought it was like Amit.
Amit's tomb.
Amit.
So if they get to Amit's tomb and Arthur is able to get there, then he can resurrect Amit. That's like Arthur's whole deal. So I think now that Arthur has the scarab, now they have to go to Egypt to stop Arthur from raising Amit.
Do you think they're actually going to end up raising Apocalypse?
I think that they will probably pull some weird, like, they raise Amit, but only like halfway, and then they're able to stop Arthur before he raises Amit all the way. Either that, or I think it'll just be Amit. I mean, I hope that they do some X-Men stuff here, but other than that, like, maybe not reference we got last week, I don't know.
How about we talk about the weapons real quick?
Yeah.
Because we get 2 different weapons. We get, like, Mr. Knight has these battle sticks or whatever you want to call them. What are they made of?
I don't know. I mean,
Magic.
they look just like
be made of adamantium.
they could be. I mean, but also I feel like the MCU is very on board with the vibranium. But also,
Or
it's all mystical,
true.
so it could just be.
Or is it the blades? Could the blades be crafted from adamantium?
Maybe, but again, I feel like they are giving us like mystical Moon Knight as opposed to gadgety Moon Knight. So I don't know if they're.
And even to that point, the blades were very disappointing in this episode. Like, when he finally Mark takes over, and then we get Moon Knight, he like gets the blades from his chest. And then you don't really see them again until like
you don't see them, and like I'm sorry,
you don't get to see them in action.
Right. I'm sorry, audio listeners, because you can't see the recreation of this, but watch the episode. Watch when he puts them away. It is the goofiest looking thing. He like sticks his arm all the way up and then brings it to his chest, like he's sheathing a sword inside of his body or something. And I was like, is that how he has to put them away? Like with so much drama? He couldn't just like click it back into place.
There was nowhere else for the pocket.
Yeah, it was like.
I mean, it's like should have used the Batman as a reference, because like that was like one of the coolest things ever.
Moon Knight, I feel like wants to be cool, but just isn't, and I think it's because they are making his gadget. First of all, why isn't he like throwing them? I feel like they're perfect for throwing. And second, it just seems goofy, and it also seems like impractical to like hold your knives like right here. How do they not just like fall out? Or
it's like, look at episode 1 when he's fighting. I don't even remember what you want to, or what we should call these things. He kind of references, are they jackals?
Yeah.
Like episode 1, he's like beating it to a pulp.
Right.
And then episode 2, it's more of like a chase sequence just to get it impaled by a building.
Which he does, like some sort of like WWE superstar. Yeah. Slams it onto a spike. But then still, the next time we see him, he has the knife out. And it's like, were you holding the knife the whole time? You were also holding the jackal.
It seemed like at one point he had 2 of them that he pulled out. But then like you don't really see them. But then after the jackal kind of like vanishes, you can clearly see like, okay, he must have stabbed this thing as they were doing something, and then he catches it. And like, why couldn't we see it in action? I don't know.
They're saving it
last episode, saving it
we'll
for Arthur.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after this episode, I'm still interested. I want to know what happens. I'm excited for next week's episode. I think that I will be disappointed if next week's episode is as slow as this week's. I just feel like nothing happened this week. It was like a whole 30 minutes or 40 minutes of nothing, and then Arthur gets the scarab and they go to Egypt.
Yeah.
So it was like this, I don't know, it was like a weird filler episode.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, so very curious to see if the rest of the season will be completely in Egypt or if they'll bounce around more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, are we going to get any other Egyptian gods? Or are we only going to get Khonshu and Amut? Be interested to see. Are there other avatars for the other gods? Or
yeah, is Crawley going to just show up in Egypt, just be sitting around?
and then they probably won't answer that, because we will see him somewhere, and it'll be like, so is he a figment of Mark's imagination, or Steven's imagination? Crazy.
He'll be a post-credit scene.
Well, definitely join us next.
Show up in Doctor Strange 2.
Oh my god! Definitely join us next week as we dive even further into this Egyptian mystery of Moon Knight and Khonshu and Steven and Mark, and that's all one person. So, isn't that crazy? I guess any final thoughts?
Just about the three personalities interacting. I feel like, and this is just my theory, only a working theory, I feel like Khonshu doesn't fully possess Mark or Steven or their shared weird body. I think that he's more like a puppet master, just kind of trying to control what they do with, threats and force and that kind of thing. And I do think that Steven is created by Mark, because all of the things we've seen, all of the aspects of his personality are all of the vulnerabilities that we know that Mark has. Like, Steven's got a good relationship with his mom that he's mysteriously on the phone with, and we found out Mark doesn't. And Steven is clearly already in love with Layla whenever Mark is trying to take Layla out of his life for her own safety. So I think that this is, something that Mark has forced himself into somehow, where he can just do what he has to do for Khonshu and keep his softer side out of it, just so that he can get through, finish what he's got to do, because Khonshu saved his life. He doesn't want to be where he's at, but this is what we're left with.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I like that. Hopefully, and maybe we'll get more of that side of it in the next episode, where we'll get deeper origin of focus just on Mark. It's like we've gotten Steven for 2 episodes. Let's get a little bit more time with Mark.
Fingers
to know
crossed.
what really happened there. Yeah.
Well, I guess you got a one-liner, anybody?
I'd say be very careful the next time you take a bite of steak.
Especially if you're vegan.
See you guys next week.